Hi. So today I want to talk to you about guest comics. Now I don't do any traditional advertising on Yellow Peril. I don't buy Facebook ads, I don't do Project Wonderful, I don't use Google AdWords or anything like that. Mostly because I'm not very good at, writing one-liners that are so clever that when people read it, they'd be like, holy shit, that's the most clever thing I've ever read, I need to check out this website. I'm also not good at designing little graphics that are eye-catching but not annoying, but eye-catching but not annoying, but eye-catching enough that you just have to click on this shit because it's so eye-catching. So I'm not good at either of those things, and I feel like those are two skills that you need in order to create effective ads on the web. So I don't do that shit. But what I will do is a guest comic. Now most of the guest comics I've done in the past are for friends who have, comics and they're like, oh shit, I'm gonna be away this weekend, hey, can you draw me up with something? Or, hey, we're celebrating a big anniversary, will you draw me a thing? The latest one I did was for all new issues, and I will link that up in the show notes. I'll link up all the guest comics that I've done in the past in the show notes so you can see what the fuck I'm talking about. So yeah, I will do guest comics. I think it's a great way to kind of get your work in front of new eyes and reach out to new audiences. And who knows, I mean, if they like it, they'll come and check your stuff out. Now, everybody has their own personal philosophy about doing guest strips. What I tend to do, and this is probably to my detriment, is I like to, create these big these big long page comics that are in full color. If you've read Yellow Peril is strip format. It's black and white, and I tone it with ink wash. So it's black and white, 3, 4, 5 panels, sometimes 6. But it's basically the kind of thing that you'll see in a newspaper. Whenever I do a guest comic, I always do it in full color at like comic book page size, 11 by 17, or whatever that reduces to. Because I kind of look at guest comics as my way to fan out and do the ultimate fan service for whoever I'm guesting for, but also it's a good way for me to challenge myself as an artist. So since I don't do color or digital inking or anything like that on my regular strip, sometimes I'll do all the inks and the line art digitally for a guest strip and then color it. I used to be a professional colorist, so I kind of, I don't want to get rusty, so anytime I have a opportunity to do a guest comic, I always say, hey, it's time to bust out the big digital crayons and do the shit. And I always wonder if people, if they see the guest comic and they like the art, and then they click onto my strip and they say, hey, what the fuck is this shit? It's all small and it's all black and white. Who's this fucker? Is this the same shithead who did that amazing guest comic on this website that I really like? So I don't know if I've lost any potential readers because my guest comics don't look anything like my traditional comics. But I don't know. It's still it's fun for me, and it's always fun for the person I'm doing the guest comic for. So for me, that's what really matters. Doing a guest comic for a comic that I really enjoy, and putting a smile on the author's face. That's the point. And if I pick up a couple new readers from that, that's an added bonus. So that's kind of the way I look at guest comics. It's not very targeted or mercenary. If you did want to be a little bit more strategic in your guest comics, I would suggest seeking out comics that are higher traffic than yours and also related to something related to your comic. So let's say you do a comic about luchadors. You want to go out and find other web comics that are about wrestling and offer to do a guest comic. Sometimes artists will say, oh shit, I'm going away on a convention, I forgot about my buffer, help, and they'll send out something on their website or through Twitter or on Facebook and saying, hey, I need a guest comic to run in 2 weeks from now because I'm going to be at a con and I won't have time to build up a buffer. So some artists do that. Sometimes if you email them and say, hey, I'd like to do a guest comic, this is my shit, what do you think? They'll be like, oh, sure. Or sometimes they'll say, fuck you, and then never to deal with that person again. But yeah, generally web cartoonists are pretty open to guest comics. If you just draw them up something, they'll be like, oh, that's really nice. I'll run it, when I have a slow day or if I've run out of buffer or something like that. So it's, if you want to be more targeted about that, pinpoint comics that have similar things that yours do. You can also try to target around holidays, like maybe do a special holiday guest comic for somebody and then lead it back to yourself. But if you want to be mercenary, you can be mercenary about it. My theory is you should draw guest comics for comics that you love, because that will come out in the guest comic that you draw. If you do it a little bit more mercenary, that spirit might not necessarily come out through your guest comic, but who knows. Now, even if you are doing a guest comic on a higher traffic site, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get those numbers. The few times that I've done guest comics, here's my traffic stats: normal day, boom, big spike, and then a couple days after, back to normal. So don't expect to get huge numbers. This is not the most effective way to advertise a comic or to get readers. But you might pick up 10 new ones or one new one, and they might be really, really loyal, and they might tell their friends about their comic, and they might tell their friends about your comic, and the word of mouth spreads, which I think is the most effective way to learn about a webcomic, is through word of mouth. If your friend tells you about a comic, you're more likely to read that than you are if you see it on a banner, a web banner or something like that. So guest comics are sort of like a word of mouth thing visually, I guess. But there are benefits. Even though you might not get huge numbers out of your guest comic, you've at least started a relationship with that creator, which is almost more important, because they can give you advice on webcomics, or they could help you out with your webcomic if you're having trouble writing things or drawing things. They might have some pointers or suggestions. This is someone you can meet at a convention and hang out, and you'd be like, hey, I did that guest comic. Oh my god, you're that dude, or you're that chick. I love your shit. And you start that relationship, which is actually more important sometimes than just a traffic spike. So guest comics are really awesome. It gets you in the habit of just sharing your art with other people. It gives you an opportunity to play around in someone else's sandbox. It gives you an opportunity to challenge yourself and do something that you normally wouldn't do. And they're just awesome. And you're participating in the webcomic community. You're building webcomic community, and that's the point. That's really the point. Getting the traffic is sort of an ancillary benefit. I mean, who knows? You might be one of those success stories where like the traffic spike hits and just keeps on going. But by and large, you're doing a guest comic because you enjoy the comic, and it's fun, and it's awesome, and it's good. So that's what I have to say about guest comics. And they're awesome, and you should try to do them for your friends or other comics that you enjoy. And thanks for listening, and I'll check you later. Bye. I never know how to end these things.